All trading videos by OFA are for educational purposes only to illustrate sample use cases of the software functionality. OFA is not a trading system or strategy being marketed on a performance track record of live or hypothetical results. Trading involves substantial risk. Please do not purchase or subscribe to OFA services without carefully reading the complete required disclaimers and terms and conditions located on the OFA website. For our fourth lesson on doubles, we're going to look at a relatively complex example from the ES. Now, the reason I say this is complex is because I want you to look at how messy this chart is. At 4 o'clock in the morning, we break down to 23.56. For the next 4 hours, we don't move. We haven't gone anywhere. The only thing that we've done is make a little bit of a move out to establish a low. This was at 5:30 in the morning, well between 5:30 and 6. That's how slow this market has been moving. Now we can see that that was also at the low from the prior day. We're stuck in a range, and we're stuck in a very tight range. The reason this is going to be a difficult example is because it's going to challenge you in terms of where we begin a profile from. So we know that we're looking for something to probe back into the transition. So for starters, let's get a profile on there and look at the decision point from this low. Well, we've already probed into it once. And you can see that we're now starting to try and lift out of this. We're slowly trying to move out and move up across this range. But we haven't been able to print volume any higher than this cluster here at 23.58 quarter. So as this develops, we're going to see the market start to probe back down into this transition. And the question is going to be, where are we going to start the profile? We're holding a prior low. We've been here all day long. Eventually, this is going to break. No market can stay in a 4-point range or a 3-point range for that many hours. We've been at it already for 4, almost 5 hours. We've been holding this range. So we know that we're either going to see a breakout to the top side, out of the top, or we're going to see a breakdown out of the downside. And our opportunity is to try and trade, rather than the breakout or the breakdown, to see if we can catch a double bottom here for the move higher. Now, we're going to have to allow this to play out in order to see why it's almost not going to make any difference at all where we start our profile from. Now, I know that's a lot to take in because you haven't seen the trade unfold yet. But as we go through it, I'm going to continue to move the profile around, and I want to show you how little it impacts the actual trade. If anything, this should put your mind at ease about your ability to choose one period or the next period or the following period after that to start your profile from. That seems to be the number one concern from novice OFA traders. They're most concerned about doing everything exactly the way it's supposed to be. Well, there is no exact way. You're trying to anticipate what a transition is going to look like. We're either going to form a transition where the market moves down, transitions back up, or where the market moves down, holds, and then transitions lower. So as we begin lifting here, we're going to see that the market is going to pull back in the other direction. And we're going to start looking for the period we think is probing into this transition. You can see that even though we've probed up and started to make new highs, we're not printing volume in a way that tells us that we should be looking for a breakout. We have neutral auctions, and we keep trading back below the volume that's been printed up above. The market is now starting to probe lower, and we're beginning to probe into our prior transition. So the question is, where do we begin a profile? Well, we've just started to probe into it, so let's grab a range profile and drop it on the chart. Now at this point, we're just holding. We don't have any action moving one way or the other, so we don't know if it's to be a breakout or a breakdown or a double bottom. Keep in mind, we want to monitor the value area. We want to see if we start breaking away from the value area in order to put this trade on. Right now, we're just trading right up against it. We don't have any evidence of a double bottom or a breakdown. Now, as we rotate back and forth, I want you to consider the situation that perhaps you thought this was the period that began probing into the low. If I adjust the profile and bring it back, you can see how the VWAP is moving one tick. There's a one tick price difference between the VWAP from one level to the next. And I can understand you might be extremely concerned about which period you should choose. Should you choose the one that's all the way into the low or the one that's right up against the low? I'm going to pull this over, and when the trade gets executed, we're going to hit pause. And I want to show you that by the time the trade develops, so much volume has accumulated here that it makes no difference at all. You're going to see that regardless of your choice, if you're one period off or exactly like I have it, you're not going to see any price difference by the time we actually get executed. So unless the market were to peel off and tear off in one direction and break the value area, could be that we're one or two ticks off from where we would be if we hadn't included a period. Now we can see that the market is starting to break away from the volume weighted average price. I'm going to put the long in, and as soon as we get the order filled, I want to show you that there is no difference between the profile from here and the profile from here. It should put your mind at ease that it's okay if you think that you might have misjudged it. From all I can tell, this was a probe down into the low. The order is filled. The stop goes to 23.55.75, our target above 23.60 quarters. And as the trade begins to develop, we get our first hint at a directional move. You can see the 2-to-1 target up above. And I think that given the number of lessons that we've had and the various ways that we've learned about trading, we could take this and go a little bit further with it. We know that we have a prior high up here, and this comes in at the London high. So if we came up here and put a decision point on this, we might be able to look for a little bit better target than if we just allow our trades to go out at random points. Here we can see that at 23.63 quarter, we have a decision point off of the London high. It makes sense that if we reach our 2-to-1 target and a 3-to-1 target comes out and a 4-to-1 target comes out, that we might want to drag those targets up and adjust them to have them come in where we would be essentially looking for a short. So by putting an order in at 63 for our take profit, we're doing a better job than just simply looking for a multiple of what may happen. So with our 2-to-1 target taken out, our 3-to-1 target comes in, as you can see, right at a high point of volume. And our 4-to-1 target, we ought to be looking to target somewhere around 63 even. Now we've also broken away from the overall value area, but we're still trailing our stop back behind our entry. So we might want to move our stop up to the VWAP, and to do that, we just select VWAP in the move stop area, give it an offset, and hit move stop. The other thing that we can potentially do to better manage this double bottom trade, remember we had a little confusion as to where we were going to start the profile from. But now that we've begun moving in a swing, it only makes sense that we adjust our profile down to the low of the swing as though it's a swing trade. So if this was a swing that we had gotten into off of a CWAP, we would be looking for the trade to be managed from the swing event. So if we want to grab the profile and move it over, we can do that and just allow it to update our orders. Now we're essentially using a swing profile rather than the range profile that we set the trade up with. So just some advanced techniques to think about as you get more and more comfortable trading double tops and double bottoms. Remember, if something turns into a good trade, chances are you're in a swing, and you want to use the tool set that we've taught you in the first lessons, and you could even add a CWAP to it to give yourself a sense of guidance as to where you'd be looking for the trade to pull back to if you weren't already in the position. Here we can see our CWAP down below, just a little bit above the point of control. So with all of our targets taken out, you can see we trade nicely across the range from the double bottom Rather than breaking down, we get the double bottom using the range profile, the volume weighted average price, and the value area to manage the trade.